The girl's name is Lily. She is 25 years old and is an only child. Her family left the house in a hurry when she was 10, and they never spoke about what happened there. Her parents are now deceased. Lily is standing in front of the gate to the house, which has a wrought iron S on it. The house is a Victorian with a large overgrown garden. The strange symbol on the door is a spiral carved into the wood. Inside the house, she finds an old, leather-bound journal hidden in a loose floorboard in the living room. The journal belonged to her great-grandmother, Eleanor. The journal is filled with stories of an old family curse, something about an old pact with a spiritual entity, and a series of disappearances in the family. The spiral symbol keeps appearing in the journal, and it's always near the description of the disappearances. Lily's parents' death was a car accident, but she has a feeling it's connected to what happened at the house. She doesn't know what to do next. Lily's hands trembled as she clutched the journal, the leather cool and smooth beneath her fingertips. Eleanor's elegant cursive filled the pages, a stark contrast to the terrifying tales of curses and disappearances it contained. The chilling coincidence of the spiral symbol, carved on the front door and repeatedly drawn in the journal next to each entry about a vanished family member, felt like a cold hand closing around her heart. It wasn't just a symbol, it was a signature. She flipped through the entries, her eyes scanning for any clue that could help her understand what was happening. The disappearances were eerily similar, a sudden, inexplicable vanishing with no sign of a struggle, only the lingering scent of something like petrichor and old earth. Her great-grandmother had written about it as the scent of the vanishing. The last entry, dated just a few days before her family had fled, described her own mother, a young child at the time, seeing a shadow with a smile in the garden. The memory of her parents' car accident felt more sinister now. Was it really an accident, or was it the curse's final brutal act? Lily knew she couldn't just leave. The house, once a source of comfort, now felt like a living tomb, holding her family's secrets and perhaps her own fate. She had to find out what had happened to them, what the spiral meant, and if the curse was still active. She walked out of the living room and into the grand hall, the silence of the house pressing in on her. She had a feeling the answer was still here, hidden within the walls. Her gaze fell on the wrought iron S on the gate, a detail she'd always found comforting. Now it just felt ominous. The S for silent, for secret, for spiral. Lily considered her next move. She could try to research the family history more, searching old records for the disappearances, or she could explore the house itself, trusting the instincts that had brought her back here. Which path would lead to the truth and which would lead to the same fate as her family? Lily chose to stay. The house had pulled her in, and she had a feeling it wouldn't let her go until the mystery was solved. The entries in Eleanor's journal were cryptic, but they all pointed to one thing: the garden. Every disappearance, every mention of the shadow with a smile, was connected to the overgrown wilderness outside. She walked out the back door, the overgrown ivy scraping against her legs. The garden was a tangle of wild roses and weeds, a place of forgotten beauty. In the center, a stone fountain was choked with moss and dry leaves. The fountain's basin was shaped like a helix, a swirling spiral that mirrored the one on the door and in the journal. It was too much of a coincidence. As she cleared the fountain, her fingers brushed against a cold, smooth stone. It was a small plaque, hidden beneath a curtain of ivy. She wiped away the grime to reveal a name carved into the stone: Eleanor. Beneath the name was a date, and below that, a phrase: "The spiral is the key to the Garden of Secrets." Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the garden, rustling the leaves and carrying with it the faint scent of damp earth and petrichor, the scent of the high. Vanishing. A chill ran down her spine. The shadow with a smile, the spiral, the scent. It was all connected to the garden and somehow to Eleanor. Lily stared at the fountain, a new, more terrifying thought taking root in her mind. The phrase on the plaque, "The spiral is the key to the Garden of Secrets," was more than just an epitaph. It was an instruction. This wasn't a curse. It was an escape route. Her great-grandmother, Eleanor, hadn't been a victim. She had been the architect. She knelt down and traced the grooves of the helix, her fingers following the path carved into the stone. Each turn felt deliberate, a silent guide. Lily looked back at the house. her eyes now seeing it not as a prison of secrets, but as a monument to them. The S on the gate, it wasn't a family initial. It was a spiral, seen from a different angle, driven by a mix of dread and a desperate hope. Lily followed the trail of her great-grandmother's path. The journal mentioned a series of clues left in plain sight, hidden within the patterns of the garden itself. She remembered Eleanor's entries about the Garden of Whispers and a Labyrinth of Roses. The labyrinth was a hedge maze that had now grown into a thick, tangled wall, but a single path, barely visible, led inside. Stepping into the rose labyrinth, the scent of damp earth and blooming roses enveloped her, thick and cloying. It was the same scent from the journal, the scent of the vanishing. Deeper within the maze, she found a clearing where a single ancient oak tree stood. Carved into its bark was a fresh spiral, and beneath it, something that made her heart leap. It was a small, ornate locket, the same one her mother had worn in an old photograph. It was a heart-shaped locket, and it was warm to the touch. With trembling hands, Lily opened the locket. Inside there was no picture, but a tiny folded piece of parchment. On it, in her mother's familiar handwriting, were 2 words: "Don't follow." Lily stood in the heart of the rose labyrinth, the locket warm in her palm and her mother's words a cold shock to her system. "Don't follow." The 2 words were a warning and a plea. They confirmed her worst fears. Her mother wasn't just gone. She was somewhere else, and she didn't want Lily to find her. The scent of the vanishing grew stronger, mingling with the earthy smell of decay and the sweet perfume of the roses. Lily realized it wasn't a natural odor. It was a supernatural anchor, a marker for a place beyond the veil. Her great-grandmother hadn't been a victim of a curse. She had opened a gateway, a path to another realm, and her family had willingly or unwillingly followed her. But why? Why would they leave everything behind? The answer lay in the journal's cryptic entries. The shadow with a smile, the Garden of Secrets. These weren't just poetic descriptions. They were clues to a pact, a deal made for some form of power or escape. The disappearances were the cost, the price of entry into a world free from the pain and struggles of their own. Lily had a choice to make. She could heed her mother's warning and leave the labyrinth, close the door on her family's secrets forever. Or she could ignore the warning, follow the spiral, and find out what was on the other side. She could unravel the family mystery once and for all, but she risked losing herself in the process, becoming a part of the Garden of Secrets and never returning. She looked at the spiral carved into the oak tree, then at the locket in her hand. The spiral was a path, and the locket was a key. She knew what she had to do. The silence of the old home had always felt like a lie, and now she knew why. The house wasn't silent. It was waiting, and she was ready to listen.